12th at noon. You can meet the Turtle Trail's newest addition, Beverly, at the Beverly Beach Town Hall. And Beverly was created by Stuart Maxey, who I know is a longtime school board leader, and also sponsored by the town of Beverly Beach and Jim and Deborah Wingo. So if you can, join Beverly Beach for that again, June the 12th at noon. Also, just an announcement that our next regularly scheduled meeting of our county commission will be Monday, June the 21st at 5 p.m. So that dispenses with announcements, I believe. And we will move right into agenda items. Number 4, and as we just did, we added consideration of an interlocal agreement with the city of Palm Coast for a temporary assignment of a fire chief. And Mr. Cameron, are you going to take that?
Yes, sir. This is an effort to get a clean transition to a new chief. We're going to be introducing to you a chief that got a couple more technical things to take care of, but he'll come to you on the next commission for ratification of his choice. In the meantime, we need to make sure that we have a clean transition from the previous chief and the interim chief to the new chief. And there is already a relationship between these people that know each other. And I want to get a good feel from us, outside, objective set of eyes on what our biggest challenges are going to be moving forward, things that need to be upgraded, things that we do really well that we need to make sure that we keep in place in this transition. So with that, we do need authorization according to the county attorney's office in order to do this.
Questions, commissioners?
No, I mean, I do have one thing I want to just add. We've bringing someone in from outside or bringing them from a different organization internally in the county or different the city. I just want us to be very cautious and understand we've got a great staff. We've got a great group of guys and gals that do an incredible job. They're some of the best in the state, some of the best in the country, and I want that to really be put out there in the transition, to be sensitive in the sense that any outsider that comes in knows that they're doing a great job. We really are behind them.
This is purely an administrative assignment. It's not meant to denigrate anyone. It's not a disciplinary action. If you'll remember when our Chief of Staff, Jorge Salinas, came in, we had a pretty non-conventional way of bringing him in by putting him in deep shadowing with various departments, or all of the departments at one time or another, and then the constitutional officers, community leaders, and so forth. It took about 60 days before we actually brought him online. This is a very similar situation where we can take someone that we know has got proven ability and some thinking outside of the box from a number of different agencies, and pair him up to prepare the ground for a new fire chief from the outside.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Right, just a administrative question, if you don't mind. There's 2 signature pages on the interlocal agreement. If we approve this morning, will then our chair and our attorney sign it today, or does it have to go back over to Palm Coast and then come back here?
It really doesn't matter the sequence. They need to get it before their board, and there's a timing question involved. The county attorney can speak to that, but I believe that we would sign it and send it to them as a signed document.
That's correct. That's the way we would do it. We would, if the board approved it, we would sign it, send it to them. They plan to call a special meeting tomorrow, and that would allow them to execute and allow it to go into effect. As you know, the initial effective date of it, that is when we have the interim fire chief, is June 10.
Okay, that's what confused me with some, Jerry, you said something about we'd wait until the next meeting to introduce him, but he'll be effective June 10th.
No, sir, that was not exactly what I said. I said that we would introduce him here, that we would agenda him the next meeting to ratify the new chief, not the interim.
Okay, now I understand.
Thank you. Commissioner Dance?
Yeah, I think for the same reasons that Commissioner Mullins spoke to, I find it in 30 days curious and would hope we have internal ability to carry forward, but just my thoughts.
I believe, Commissioner, that we do have the internal ability to carry forward. I believe that this will give us an enhanced transition.
All right. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the interlocal agreement between Flagler County and Palm Coast for Palm Coast to provide an interim fire chief.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor of the motion for approval and signature on the interlocal agreement, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Opposed?
One opposed, so that motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Next up, we'll move into recognitions. And first up, we have a Gold Telly Award winner recognition entitled Resilient Visit Flagler. It looks like we have our tourism director, Amy Lukasik. Forward.
Yes, sir. While they are coming up, I'd like to get Carlos to run the documentary that they are being recognized for.
Flagler Beach community is everything to me. After Hurricane Matthew, we lost our house. We were homeless, but we were still out there helping the community clean up.
Being rooted in a community such as Flagler Beach, the community support really helps you get through the tough times.
We wanted to be in a place where we could really connect with the locals.
This is the best town I've ever been in.
I think when people come to Flagler Beach, they want to connect with the people here and they want to live that lifestyle for just a minute and feel like they're a part of the community.
And it's like you get to kind of finally rest and just be at peace and by the ocean and, you know, happy.
I love to walk along the water. Sometimes I have my dog with me, and there's nothing better than taking in that ocean air, going to have something to eat, and just enjoying what we have here, which is really a beautiful, beautiful coastline.
We have all mom and pop restaurants and shops, and people love to come here and kind of live on island time and just hang out, go to the beach, eat, walk around, drive their golf carts, or ride their bikes.
You know, if you want to kayak, if you want to paddleboard, if you want to surf, if you want to fish, it's got a lot to offer as far as that. There's tons of restaurants, shopping. I mean, Flagler Beach is a wonderful, wonderful place.
We drive down to Florida and our first stop is Flagler Beach. And we just want to hit the waves and be in the sun.
And once they come and see what we have to offer, they come back.
You know, they want to be here for the ocean, they want to be here for the river, and they want to support locals. And those people are our kind of people, and they want to take care of what we have as much as we do.
We want them to see what we have to offer. It will boost the economy in Flagler Beach, and then all of the small, unique businesses, people that are passionate about what they do, can thrive and give back to the community.
Having a wonderful sense of community where we're all working together to make our dreams come true is extremely important.
We just keep putting our best foot forward. Hopefully people will find us, and when they do, usually we can capture them.
I've asked Ms. Lukasik to give you the full significance of this award. It was highly competitive, and there are some power hitters that are out there that they competed against to get this award. This just really shows you, once again, what this county has to offer in the way of talent.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Amy Lukasik, Tourism Director. And I'm going to say thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. I think it was your appearance that took us over the edge in your hat.
Shocking. It should have
But actually, that was a part 2 of a 2-part series that we did at the onset of COVID. So the first video that we did was more kind of doom and gloom and very heavy imagery. So this one was just more about the resiliency and the recovery. And it was targeted specifically for Flagler Beach because they had endured hurricane, and then all the A1A road construction. And then right when they finished, almost literally within 30 days of the construction, the pandemic happened. So it was just one more thing that they had to endure. So we wanted to push out a video that showed now more than ever that they need your support, and they really are the little town that could. And we had all the video footage already, so it was very easy to pull it all together in a relatively short period of time. So I'd like to introduce to you the staff member that oversee the creation of all of our video content. She comes up with all the concepts, all the messaging, does all the approval for editing, and before we push it out. And that's Candy Breckenridge, and she's our marketing media manager. And she really is the one that makes us look good each and every day on video, social media, website, photography. So I give all the kudos to her and working with that video production company. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in that category, which is very competitive public relations, there were only 2 gold medals given in that category.
Oh, wow, great job.
Awesome. Yep, very impressive. And we're very lucky.
Mr. Chair, before we go to the next item, if I may, I don't think we called for public comment when we considered the interlocal agreement with the city of Palm Coast.
Okay.
What I'd ask you to do is just, we'll move that item back. I would request we move the item back and you call for public comment and then you take your vote.
Okay, well, my suggestion, commissioners, is we're in the middle of these recognitions. Maybe we could finish that and then we'll do that. Go back and do it. Is that okay?
That's fine. I think that the city of Palm Coast will know. I'm assuming somebody's following these proceedings, so they'll know you've approved it and are, 100% likely to approve it after a public comment.
Okay. All right. Next up, looks like we have a achievement award relating to some of our GIS work. So I'm not sure who's taking this one.
Yes, sir. This is an award that comes from, I'll read it, the highest possible achievement award in the GIS field by ESRI, which is cornerstone of GIS software, and this occurred at their annual users conference. And it was given because of an array of projects that our GIS team and drone team have been able to put together. They've done some absolutely unbelievable situations or projects out there, and it is great to see them recognized for this incredible work. I'll ask Darlene Pardini to come up and introduce her team and give you an overview of just what led to this award.
You guys?
Good morning. I'm
Morning.
Darlene, GIS manager for Flagler County. This is Matt Adams. He is our GIS developer. It's very humbling to receive this award, but it would not have been possible if it weren't for, first of all, your empowerment. Mr. Cameron, we refer to as the cowbell for GIS from the Saturday Night Live skit, because from the time he arrived here in Flagler County, where are your apps? Where are your maps? What are you doing with GIS? So we were able to take it from a 911 addressing office to encompass a lot more. And as you know, if we buy expensive software and it sits in the computer and nobody uses it, it's a waste. So we've really worked hard as a team. We also have Skylar Dixon, who can't come down with us because he's up running the video today for Carlos. So, you know, we monthly hold hands-on learning labs, and we have staff from throughout the county that attend, and we try to push this software into their hands so that they can create some of these, you know, applications that are really useful for just them to use. It kind of fills the void, and a lot of softwares do 90% of what you want, and this can help them fill that 10%. So whether we talk about Candy from tourism that used our story map application to promote Flagler County during Bike Week, or we talk about Nikki North over at the Sheriff's Office, who's created a robust dashboard for the deputies to all see what's going on real time. You know, there are many, many other things, but so much of that is continuing to educate them about what tools we do have available, putting those tools in their hands. And then the heavier lifting we do, of course, but we're always here as a resource for them. You know, Matt has really taken, as you've heard, the virtual reporter to the next level with a lot of intricate programming. And Skylar joined us just over 6 months ago, and he's continued to figured out how to live stream our drone footage so we can push that real time, say right after a hurricane. You know, you don't have to leave the EOC. You can see what Flagler Beach looks like from the EOC. So a lot of different things that just come together, but we've been empowered and given the tools and the support to do that. And the staff has been very open and welcoming to accepting our help. So thank you.
Thank you. I think we might have a question.
Oh.
Just a statement. I think it's remarkable that what you're doing is, we're not buying software. We're making software. I mean, that's what's so cool about what you're doing.
Well, we have
developing it right in-house.
Yeah, because we purchased, 3 years ago, Jared? I think the enterprise license agreement with Esri, instead of just having public safety, we were then able to take that to the next level. You know, so for that same licensing that we're paying for anyway, we might as well get the most out of it that we can.
And from my reading of it, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I just get the sense that our usage and the things that y'all are doing are on par with some of the larger counties in Florida, some of the applications and things you've been able to develop, and for that, we're real appreciative and proud of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Super.
All right, thanks. Okay, I guess we have some achievement awards that we've received from the National Association of Counties, otherwise known as NACO. So, Mr. Cameron, you doing those as well?
Yes, sir. We were selected for actually 4 awards from the National Association of Counties. And again, it points to some of the things we've been recognized by other agencies before. And it's really interesting to see that we get recognized by multiple agencies for the accomplishments. It tells you the validity of the awards that we're receiving. A National Association of Counties provided in 2021 4 different achievement awards. And the first is for our YouGov Flagler app featuring the Flagler Virtual Reporter, and that's in the category of information technology. Again, Darlene and her team have not only developed that in-house at a surprisingly low number. I think they had less than $3,000 for the development and the promotion on it. It's proving every day to be a great tool for our citizens as well as our staff in identifying issues that need to be addressed, and the speed with which we address those issues has really increased dramatically. And I'd like to give a big hand to them for getting the Information Technology Award from the National Association of Counties.
I would just say that I get nothing but compliments from the citizens. You know, when we pass the cards out and they've used it and come back and say it's really a great service, and we did it extremely economically.
The next one from the National Association of Counties is in the health category, and it is for our community paramedicine program. And our past chief initiated this program, and it has been carried out by fire administration since that time. If I bring Karen Prather up here one more time, we're going to have to put her a desk in here because she has been recognized for everything possible. And what she did during the paramedic was just unbelievable. She carried forth vaccinations into the community to shut-ins so that those shut-ins would have the ability to get vaccinated without having to go out. She was recognized by a number of our media outlets, and she also is, if the NACO award wasn't enough, Friday, I received information from the Red Cross that they have selected her for their Community Heroes Award. And she is just continues to rack up these rewards. Karen's scheduled for retirement in about a year. I don't know how she'll ever be replaced. This is incredible stuff that she's gotten done. Big hand. The next one is for the Fire Leadership Academy, and that falls under the category of criminal justice and public safety. As you know, Chief Petito, when he was here, did a lot of work with this. Our other fire fighters have also put in a lot of effort to make sure that this happens. It's a very successful program, and we're actually been able to take students from high school directly into the fire services. Again, a one-of-a-kind program that has gotten attention many times before. this is another instance of the tremendous job that our staff in this county does and how fortunate we are to have them. Big hand for the fire services. And the final NACO award was from, for the Flagler County Leadership Academy in the category of County Administration and Management. As you know, your second class will be graduating right here at our next meeting, and it has produced some very good results. It is something I think that there are many folks, including a county attorney, that will testify to the results that he sees coming out of there. It is really amazing to watch these people get a passion for self-improvement. Dr. Saviak has worked with me for 2 years to make this excellent training in leadership, and that program, which uses current authors in leadership as textbooks, has been recognized not only here in our own organization, but elsewhere for the results it manages to produce. So a big hand for Dr. Saviak and all of the graduates of the Flagler Leadership Academy. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any more awards today.
Yes, Commissioner Mullins, go ahead.
Oh, no, I want to say how impressed I am with all this. It's a phenomenal. Our first responders are the best, literally, when I tell them that, I say this, they're the best in the country. They really are. We have now been recognized by the National Association of Counties as being some of the best. When I say our GIS is doing a great job, and a lot of it stems from the Leadership Academy, and they're improving. They have now been recognized on a national scale of counties from all over the country. This country, the counties all are represented at NACO. I have the honor of being on several committees there, and on a phone call just at Friday, they called and said, "Joe, what are y'all doing down there? Y'all are doing some incredible things." And they said, "I'd love to see if we can get you or someone on the commission or in the county on our membership committee, because you guys are the testimony that we need." And I told them about our Leadership Academy, which I have the honor of seeing a lot of the emails from the staff that come through it, and I get the honor to work with, as the other commissioners do. I've noticed a huge difference in all of them, just being able to handle aggressive situations in public, being able to handle the challenging questions like never before. And we are now being recognized on a national stage for being one of the greatest counties in this country. And that's great news.
I don't, for my part, I've been serving, this is my 5th year, I guess, and I don't ever remember us, even before I served, receiving recognition from the National Association of Counties, so for all our different things that we're doing, so appreciate that very much to everyone. Okay, so anything else on that, Mr. Cameron, or
That pretty much covers it, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, well, we have no proclamations scheduled today. We've deleted item 4C1, so we will move on to item 4C2, which is a presentation regarding our Florida Agricultural Museum here in Flagler County, and I guess we see the director here. Kara, how are you?
While she's coming up, Mr. Chairman, she has come in and done a great job at the Ag Museum. I don't know if people really recognize what a unique gem that is for this county. It is absolutely an under-recognized asset for us. And as you will see just shortly, that Flagler County staff has worked with the Ag Museum and Kara to produce a vision and, quite frankly, a real future for our agricultural museum. Kara?
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Kara Hoblick, Executive Director of the Florida Agricultural Museum. If I could direct your attention to the screens for a presentation produced by the incredibly talented team of staff members from Flagler County. Jared?
There is a place in northeastern Florida where the land is pristine and nature still runs free. And it's there, situated within the heart of the land, that you'll find the Florida Agricultural Museum. The story of Florida is a rich and dynamic one, abundant with people, cultures, and events essential to the telling and understanding of our nation's history. But for anything to be truly bountiful, it must be nurtured. It must have strong roots anchored in fertile soil. In Florida's case, much of its abundance is quite literally rooted in the ground that makes it up. Over its history, Florida has cultured a rich agricultural narrative, which has since played a big role in forming the modern-day Florida we all know. The former U.S. Secretary of State, Daniel Webster, once said, "When tillage begins, other arts follow. The farmers, therefore, are the founders of human civilization." While this may sound dramatic by today's standards, the core of his message is planted in truth. Where would our nation and Florida be without its agricultural history and its diverse cast of characters? What part did they play as trailblazers in the propagation of our future? And most importantly, where do they fit in the story of us? The responsibility of teaching the next generation of Floridians the importance of understanding their legacy in the land falls on institutions like the Florida Agricultural Museum. The museum is dedicated to keeping the history of Florida's agricultural pioneers alive, while sowing the seeds of innovation and cultivating the agricultural visionaries of tomorrow. In today's fast-paced cyber landscape, it's growing more and more difficult to stand out amongst the digital noise. How do you convince people to unplug and come spend a day out on the land when everything they could ever want to know is right there online? The answer? You raise the stakes. You step up to meet the new world by evolving not only what story you choose to tell, but where you tell it, and most crucially, how. So where do we begin? Well, in this way, we are lucky. Our ancestors have forged us an engaging narrative rich in history and personality. Our first task is to find the best way to tell it. We propose dividing the story of agricultural Florida into phases or chapters, if you like. In this way, we can take the time and the dedication needed to customize each chapter to be best received by our visitors. This is where we find our story. Are you ready for chapter 1? There is a
Hello, my name is Kara Hoblick, and I am the Executive Director of the Florida Agricultural Museum. Thank you for joining me today. The Florida Agricultural Museum has the potential to become an internationally recognized destination for millions of tourists, students of public, private, and home schools, locals wanting an educational and entertaining experience, and researchers looking for ways to improve production agriculture through advanced technology. While the following proposal may seem elaborate, this long-term plan can become a reality. Ensuring our institution will be known as more than just a museum, it will be an experience. So first, let's briefly review the legacy and mission of the Florida Agricultural Museum. The Agricultural Museum's primary mission is the preservation and conservation of Florida's agricultural legacy, as well as the educational charter it holds as a museum. We are a private, nonprofit institution and the official agricultural museum for the state of Florida. Our museum hopes not only to continue this mission, but to expand it by embracing the future, showing modern agricultural innovations within the industry, and by beginning to actively engage the next generation of agricultural trailblazers through interactive exhibitions and education programs. Now, before we begin telling our story, let me introduce you to our cast of characters and expand on why we chose to create them as part of this project. When telling a story as lengthy and diverse as we are, it can be easy for those not familiar with it to become overwhelmed or feel disconnected. It is for that reason that we have chosen to employ a cast of characters to escort visitors through the historical elements of the museum, combined with interpretive signage placed throughout the tour. These characters are loosely based on the types of families who would have lived in agricultural settings exactly like those on display. Creating engaging, educational, interpretive signage has been proven to help establish value and meaning to a guest visit that can have a ripple effect for years to come. What was once just a walk in the woods becomes so much more when a visitor connects their own path to those who walked it centuries before. When a personal connection is made between a visitor and a person or location, appreciation is created and learning is made easier. It is up to institutions like ours to utilize these opportunities in new and engaging ways to more effectively educate those who are willing to learn. As we begin our expansion project overview, it is important to get a lay of the land before diving too deep into any proposal that incorporates maps and space designations. It's important to understand the reasoning behind it. For example, why move the existing buildings? Well, the answer to that question is flow, specifically when it comes to the historical narrative the museum is trying to tell. The timeline associated with the agricultural community in Florida is extremely long, so we propose segmenting it into tour stops or project phases for the purposes of this presentation. This format will allow visitors to interact with each relevant historic time period in chronological order, eventually leading them back to the visitor center. This map represents a rough site layout that would best support that flow. Keep in mind this is for visual representation only and will most likely vary as buildings are acquired and each phase is solidified going forward. The map shown on the left depicts how the proposed museum tour flow would be represented to visitors. As you can see, after exiting the admission side of the visitor center and museum, guests would begin a self-guided walking tour of the history of Florida agriculture, spanning from the Timucuan Indians and the early agricultural communities of Florida all the way into the present day, ending their tour by re-entering the visitor center and viewing the interactive Future of Florida Agriculture exhibitions. The first proposed element of Phase 1 is the creation of a central visitor center and museum. The proposed building would be located at the front of the property and has been designed as a central place where visitors can begin their visit and orient themselves about what they can expect once they begin their tour. It will also crucially be home to a museum, rotating exhibition spaces, educational classrooms, private event space, as well as offices for museum employees. Although the proposed building shown isn't an exact architectural rendering, it has been planned and represented as thoroughly as possible to assist in visualizing what we have in mind. This includes the architectural elements we envision to ensure the center will authentically represent its agricultural roots and ultimately be designed with both its mission and setting in mind. After all, the core mission of the Florida Agricultural Museum is to honor and promote Florida's agricultural community, therefore ensuring the first thing visitors interact with embraces the architectural traditions of rural farm architecture is key. What you see here is a very basic floor plan proposal. Keep in mind this is not an architectural rendering, simply an artistic interpretation to assist with visualization and planning. Here are the basics. We are proposing a 2-floor facility. The ground floor will be divided into entry and museum spaces and re-entry educational exhibition spaces. The private second floor will be divided into an event space, offices, and classrooms. When guests enter the visitor center from the parking lot, they'll be greeted with a standard admissions desk, as well as printed collateral like maps, guidebooks, and brochures, all tailored to assist visitors through their upcoming self-guided tour once they exit the building into the park. After purchasing their day pass, visitors will be directed to the left-hand side of the building, where they begin their tour through a small rotating exhibition space, displaying cultural heritage items too delicate to be displayed outdoors, as well as a permanent installation laying the groundwork for what they will be experiencing throughout the property after exiting the building. Once they pass through the exhibition spaces, the last stop before exiting the building and beginning the external tour is a short video covering some historical background and further introducing host characters they may encounter during their visit. Once visitors complete their tour across the museum grounds, they will be guided naturally back to the visitor center, entering from the opposite side of the building from where they exited. Once inside, they will be met with an open exhibition space showcasing interactive educational elements and installations highlighting the future of Florida agriculture, including 4-H programs, hydroponics, and the future of hybrid agribusinesses. This will lead into a sustainably sourced cafe and gift shop, featuring locally sourced products and produce grown within the building's indoor farming innovation installation. The second floor of the visitor center and museum will be private, accessible for special events and by staff. The main atrium will be under a dome designed to create an indoor rotunda, perfect for weddings, private parties, and fundraising events. Around the perimeter of the second floor will be staff office spaces, a boardroom, and access to a large learning space perfect for hosting school groups, furthering the museum's core mission of education. The first element of Phase 1 is the creation of our Pioneer Village. The village will consist of historic buildings, many of which the museum already owns, arranged to form a condensed example of a townscape that would have been inhabited by our cast of early pioneer storytellers. This so far includes a post office, a family house, a general store, granary, horse barn, and more. We also have the possibility of integrating a working miniature train and a water tower. The thinking behind making this Phase 1 installation was that it would utilize most of the buildings already owned by the museum, as well as many of the structures that would need to be relocated once construction of the visitor center was begun. It would also create an immediate feature to be experienced by guests, allowing the museum to still generate revenue while undergoing its other extensive renovations. The next segment of Phase 1 is the creation of a communal green space within the center of the property. Being that the Florida Agricultural Museum exists mainly outdoors and that the tour grounds are extensive, it only makes sense that there be a designated venue for visitor relaxation that can also host educational demonstrations as well as recreational activities. By integrating a communal green space into our long-term site plan, we will be encouraging visitors to commune with their outdoor surroundings, as well as catering to guest comfort, creating a naturally occurring place for parents, chaperones, and guides to rest and recharge before continuing with their tour. The final element of Phase 1 is the recreation of a traditional Timucuan Indian village. The replica village will be built as an interactive experience for visitors, allowing for demonstrations and storytelling. The primary focus of the exhibition will be educational, highlighting the diverse and extensive contributions of the Timucuan Indians to the history of Florida's agricultural community. The location of the village was chosen in order to utilize its proximity to water and open demonstration space, essential to telling the story of a people who utilized waterways for transportation, protection, and as a primary food source. The proposed expansion of the Florida Agricultural Museum is a long-term project. It has been loosely divided into future phases to allow for project planning and fundraising. Although there is always room for growth, we are in the process of planning Phases 3 and 4. Phase 3 will see the creation of an educational early Spanish settlement exhibition as well as large interactive exhibits focusing on the plantations and early agricultural communities of the late 1800s and early 1900s. Phase 4 will showcase modern, present, and future agricultural innovations and will mark the conclusion of the self-guided tour element of the visitor experience. These tour stops will range from the agribusiness workyards of the 1940s to the agricultural communities of today and the visions for their future, including wildfire mitigation strategies and the role of technology in farming. Thank you for taking part of your day to learn more about the Florida Agricultural Museum's proposed expansion project. I am very excited for all that we have in store and hope now you will be too. Hello, my name.
Thank you very much, and a huge thanks to the staff members that produced all of this and also supporting documents. They did an amazing job, and I cannot think of another county that has this much talent. One thing I mention every time I am speaking locally is that this museum could have been anywhere in the state of Florida, but we are so lucky it is in our backyard. And the original Board of Trustees chose Flagler County for several reasons. One is the gorgeous, pristine landscape of the property sandwiched between the interstate and a U.S. highway. But most importantly, it was because of the overwhelming support from the county commissioners and also the residents and business people of the county. So now we are at the stage where we need to take the show on the road. We will have team members from the Florida Agricultural Museum bringing this message, and the important takeaway for them is that they need to support the Agricultural Museum. And what I'm asking for today is two things. The first is to pass a resolution supporting this long-term vision, and the second is to support a financial local effort. This will demonstrate as we go across the state of Florida that the county is behind us, and it will be much easier to go to several entities to ask for their support. We will be going to agricultural commodity organizations, farmers, ranchers, ag-related businesses, and for them to see that the county is 100% behind us, it will be much easier for them to jump on board also. I want to thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for your continued support.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
Any questions, commissioners? Yes, I would look for administration to come back with a draft of a resolution for us to consider.
Yes, sir, we will do that, and I just, it's overwhelming to think that what having 460 acres in a pristine setting at the intersection of US 1 and I-95, surrounded by permanent conservation, it is just what can be here could be one of the biggest attractions that Flagler County could ever have. And I'll certainly get that resolution done for you.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that the location where it is unbelievable, because then you have all of Princess Place connected to it too. So that piece of land this close to the coast and on major transportation is really unbelievable that it's going to be preserved here. So it's the right thing to do. I guess we've just from my historical perspective, we've tried in the past, but there's always it's hard to get off that initial spot. So it's a great attempt to come up with a master plan.
And just to the north of it, you got Favor Dykes Park, and the Matanzas State Forest goes all the way to 206. So there's tremendous opportunities there. And Kara mentioned it, but I just have to point it out. I'm so proud of them. This entire video and the entire slide presentation was produced strictly in-house using our creative team. And I just don't know where there's another county, even twice this size, that has that kind of talent on board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you.
All righty, so that puts us through all our items up to 4 through 4C. And as we discussed with the attorney earlier, we need to reopen up what was item 4A prime to consider public comment or hear public comment. So I would entertain a motion to reopen up that item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reopen item 4A prime, the interlocal agreement with Flagler County and Palm Coast, and open it up to public comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to do that. Please, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will, we've already had discussion on the item, considered it, had an initial vote, reopened it for the purpose of public comment. So I'm going to open public comment on this item and just remind everyone that it's just on this particular item that we're asking for public comment on, if there is any. Okay, seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment and we need a new motion and vote on it.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 4A prime, which is the interlocal agreement between Palm Coast and Flagler County for Palm Coast to provide an interim chief for our fire department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the item, the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Thank you. So we have, that motion carries 4-1. All right, we will move into community and board comments and section 5A, which is our first community outreach portion of our agenda. And I'll just remind everyone in the audience that this is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. And I want to remind everybody that if you're here for any item that's in 8A, in 8 or 9, then I would ask for you to refrain from comments on those items and bring those up when we consider that particular business. This is not for that purpose. This is for, again, items that are not on the agenda or items that are on the consent agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. So community outreach is now open. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, George Mayo, Palm Coast. I brought this issue up to the Palm Coast City Council the other day. Mr. Sullivan was present. This past week, the Daytona News Journal had a major 3-page article concerning the General Assembly's laws and everything that they passed. And it seems like the majority of them all include some form of preemption. And it just seems to be getting worse as General Assembly comes and goes. We've talked about this. Previously, I've mentioned this before. It seems like Tallahassee doesn't want to hear from the federal government on how to run the state, but when it comes to us running our county and our cities and whatever, Tallahassee knows better than anybody. And I wonder, I would like to see some of you, all of you, any of you, have serious conversations with our state rep and our state senator, because it didn't give specific votes, but it said all these were approved on party line vote. So I'm really wondering, these representatives live among us, but why are they voting like this? Some of the subjects were short-term rentals, vacation rentals, something which Mr. Hadid worked hard and tirelessly on for a long time. They want to take that away from us. There are many other subjects that I could stand here and tell. They want to have everything to say, and they know best, and we don't know anything. And it seems if a couple more General Assemblies like this, and your positions may be obsolete. We could put up 2 85-inch screens, and when we have a meeting, just have a Zoom call with a talking head from Tallahassee, and he'll tell us how to fix our beach restoration or not. and how to fix the vacation rentals or not. And I just also want to see what our lobbyists are doing. I know we have every year importance of what we want talked about, but I would like to see if you would have serious conversations and see if somehow we could stem the tide of this preemption. My second question is concerning ransomware. I know I brought this up. I know Jared and our department is very competent, but it just shows that in recent weeks, all the ransomware that have hit large companies who thought they were protected and yet had to pay ransom to get everything released and reopened, to have a conversation. Are we doing enough? Have we done enough? Can we do more with our IT department to protect us from being held ransom by ransomware? I know they're competent, but I hope this is looked into again and see, is there something we can do better? The president is asking all corporations, all companies, all counties and towns to look further into, see what they can do to protect themselves. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Anyone else for community outreach?
Jane Gentile, Youth, Plantation Bay. It's hard to beat George Mayo. I agree with every single thing he said. Speaking of our IT department, I'm just absolutely mind-boggled at how our own Flagler County website has gone from bad to worse, to worse, to worse, to worse. Days before, several years ago, I would get an email with a link. I would click the link, and I'd get the agenda. So it was opening the email and one link. Now, not on the list again for the third time, we're having a problem. To get to the agenda now, which is the most important thing, I believe, of Flagler County government, because it's how our money is spent, what laws you make for us, etc. You now have to go to the website. Go to the website, flaglercounty.org. Then you go into Flagler County government, another click. Then you go into another link, and at least last year, Lucy had put up an agenda on top. That's gone now. You've got to scroll down below library, but COVID is #1, which is great. You've got to scroll down. I had to talk to Lucy to get a lesson like I never graduated kindergarten, and I thank Lucy. It took 5 clicks to get to an agenda. We spend all this money for all this website, but it seems that Flagler County doesn't want the citizens to see the agenda. But yet, the site says Flagler County has everything, except it's not user-friendly. I would like this website put back to what it was. Getting to the agenda is very important, and if somebody wants to click, they should. What is wrong that 10 years ago, you could get an email and a direct link to the agenda? Why can't we have that anymore? It says Flagler County has everything. We certainly don't have everything. We do have a lot, though, and I'm glad I live here. The second thing, and I don't want to take up too much time, I'll be speaking later on other issues. Chairman O'Brien, I sent you, you had asked, I sent you all the proposed tethering ordinances that really never passed the state, and they're really good ones. It is summer. We have mosquitoes. What is this commission doing about reviewing the tethering ordinance for the dogs in this county? It's over a year that this was supposed to be visited. These little animals are part of our community. We need to take care of them. Leaving them chained on 200 feet chains, because that's what the farmers want. Well, that's too bad. You need to take action, and you need to take action now as far as stopping allowing tethering of any dog. If you need to have a dog on a chain all day, you should not have a dog. Please do something about the tethering and the agenda. Thank you.
Folks, we don't do that here at our meeting, please. Yeah, I know. I got that. Yes, sir. Next.
Good morning, Chairman O'Brien, Vice Chairman Mullins, Chairman Sullivan, Chairman Hanson, Chairman Dance, County Attorney Hadid, County Administrator Cameron, Madam Secretary, and Flagler County Sheriff's Deputy. My name is Raymond Anthony Crown. I am an entrepreneur. I'm bringing our product to Shark Tank, and I'm only asking for $12 million and 40%, at which point I'm planning on opening up the Crown Homeless and Rehabilitation Shelter for veterans and civilians in Flagler County. And it will also be caffeine and nicotine friendly until somebody throws hot coffee on one of my employees or volunteers. Then it will be iced coffee, but it will still be caffeinated. And I will be the assistant chaplain there. I don't need all the credit. I'm not going to put Crown on it. I'm just going to draw a crown like I do next to my surname. My name is, like I said, Raymond Anthony Crown. I'm also a philanthropist. My foundation is Stuart Marchman Act Crisis Stabilization Unit, because I've been Baker Acted there about 20 times over the last 2 decades. I am running for Flagler County Commissioner in the year of our Lord 2024 as a 4-time felon. None of my felonies are moral turpitude. I've never been convicted of fraud, theft, or embezzlement. Right now I'm living in the Mondex, so I can't run against the incumbent County Commissioner Mullins because that seat is up for election in 2022. But I'm planning on moving to Beverly Beach since we live in Florida. And should live on the beach. I'm from Alaska. I like the snow and mountains. But this would be a great state if Orlando had a 12,000-foot mountain and we had earthquakes and volcanoes, but we don't. Anyways, I don't need any of the $58,324.80 salary. So all of that's going to go to my homeless shelter. Right now, I generously contribute to Stuart Marchman Act Crisis Stabilization Unit. I donate to the Christmas with a Deputy, because Christmas is every day when you're helping the poor, less fortunate, indigent, and needy. I donate to the Florida Sheriff Youth Ranches, because I don't want kids to end up a 4-time felon like me. I donate to the Sergeant Frank Selico Foundation for Bikes for Kids at Christmas, because he was Corporal Frank Selico when I swam away from him and 3 other FSCO deputies in Ribbon Lake on Flamingo Drive at my late mother's house. And I hope you all had a happy Memorial Day. I brought you some flags. God bless you all. You're always in my prayers.
Thank you, Raymond. Anyone else for community outreach? Thank you, Raymond.
James Fisk, I'm with the Flagler County Historical Society and also an employee of the Florida Agriculture Museum. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, did want to make a statement about the history of Flagler County. It is imperative that we do talk about our agriculture here in Flagler County, because that's what made the county to start with. We were under St. Johns County for a long time until 1917, but it was agriculture that made this county. And believe it or not, it still is. There's a lot of potato farmers, a lot of cabbage farmers here in Flagler County. Another item that I do wish to bring up is the Historical Society just finished up a restoration project of a little item. It was the Dolores Dean dollhouse or playhouse that was on the Doc Dean property on Moody Boulevard. We're going to have an open house this Saturday. permit pending. We're waiting for a permit from the county. We're going to have an open house from 9 o'clock until 1 o'clock. Again, permit pending. We'll be having a rummage sale, a dunking booth, a car show, and we'll be cooking up some hot dogs and hamburgers. And again, that's this Saturday from 9 to 1, permit pending. So I want to thank y'all very much for what y'all do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else for the community outreach? All right, seeing no one else approach the podium, I will close community outreach. Couple things. I'm sorry I have to push back on the website and the app, or the website. 3 clicks while Ms. Yude was speaking, 15 seconds, agenda up, you can fully read it. So that was a false assertion. With respect to Mr. Mayo, preemption is something that every local government, as you know, that was well documented, I'm sure in that article. I didn't read it, but I can only imagine, is something that we all struggle with, and it's an age-old struggle, and it's not gonna stop. And we are all on the same page as far as not having, trying to fight preemption at every turn. And we're not unique to that. We do feel that our lobbyists stand up for us and get our opinions voiced to the decision makers in Tallahassee, but of course, we don't control what they do. We feel our investment of time in the Florida Association of Counties, who is the strongest advocate in the state of Florida for trying to protect and prevent preemption and protect home rule is well worth it in terms of money that we pay for dues and for all of our involvement, because we're all involved in the Association of Counties from one way or another. And several of us serve in leadership positions with the association. So that's a tough thing. And we have those conversations. I know that individually we have those conversations with our local elected leaders or officials, Senator Hudson and Representative Renner, to the extent that we can. But as you stated, Mr. Mayo, sometimes party politics come into play there, and we give it the try every time. In terms of ransomware, I don't know if there's anything the administration wants to comment on that without giving away any inside baseball or secrets, because we need to be careful about that, obviously, in a public forum. So, but I know we're doing a lot to protect our network, and it all comes down to risk mitigation and what we can and can't do. But I'm sure we're like every other organization that, we're always one click away from some malware going to somebody's inbox, and I don't know how you protect against that completely.
This is a conversation I have frequently with Director Shoup, and we're constantly upgrading, training, and ultimately, for our backup materials, we are practicing what I believe to be the safest method of protecting your archives, and that's air gap. And without going into details about how we do that, that makes it pretty difficult to do a ransomware attack. If I've misstated anything, I wish that Director Shoup would disabuse me.
Did you have something, Commissioner Sullivan?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate what you said about the home rule, local control preemption thing, a couple of points. In addition, we are active members, and the Florida Association of Counties is extremely active and has had successes in the last couple of years, significant successes on those issues. One was the way the taxes were going to be handled a couple of years ago. I think they put $4 million into a campaign to stop that legislation from happening. We're also members of the Florida Northeast Florida Regional Council, another group where if you can put more than one county together, you have a better chance of having influence at the legislative level, because they see it's a group of people, not just one individual. Not that each individual isn't important in making the points. And then finally, for instance, this Friday, the Chamber is having a breakfast open to the public if you want to buy a ticket, and you get 2 hours with Paul Renner and Travis Hudson. And if you have something specific you'd like to bring up with them, that'd be a good time to do that. Now, I don't know how many tickets are left, all of that kind of thing, but I think that our representatives are open to listening to us, and sometimes they get up there at the state, they get overwhelmed because it becomes a political issue, and if they're on the majority side, it's hard to fight things individually. But I think we've been successful in a number of areas, but there's no doubt about it that there's a constant attempt to take away, when it comes down to money most of the time, our ability to take our taxpayer dollars and apply them I always figured the closer you can get to the people, the better for how you want to apply money. But a lot of it comes down to that.
And I guess the last item in terms of the comments were, with respect to the tethering ordinance, I certainly, if my fellow commissioners, if you want to revisit that issue, I'm fine to participate in that and open it up. To be honest, it's been a little while since we've had the conversation and worked on that ordinance, so I don't know what the pleasure of the rest of the commissioners is or isn't, so. Okay, silence seems to be that we're fine with our ordinance the way it stands. Okay, so we're finished with community outreach. Item 5B is for the board to have any comments on the consent items without pulling them. So we'll go down the line here. Commissioner Sullivan, anything?
No.
None.
No, sir.
No, sir. All right, so we don't have any comments there. So we'll move to the consent agenda item. Any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda item? Commissioner Dance?
No, sir.
Commissioner Hanson?
None, sir. None.
Mullins?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right, and neither do I, so entertain a motion on that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
You have a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we moved through the consent agenda. We'll move on to general business. First item is item 8A, and this is a quasi-judicial matter. It's adoption of a resolution to vacate a portion of the plat of St. John's Park, parcel number delineated in the agenda item, which is at 3421 County Road 2006. The petitioners are James T. and Margaret T. Darby, and because this is quasi-judicial, we need disclosure of any ex parte communications. Commissioner Dance?
No, sir.
I had none, sir.
I have none.
None.
And none for myself, so with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Magel.
Thank you, sir. Adam Magel, Growth Management Director. Just have a couple of quick graphics. This outline is taken from your packet, shows the area that's proposed for the vacation. The actual boundaries there are in the turquoise. The overall boundary of the parcel is in red. And so within that, you can see those lots, blocks, portions of the streets that are proposed to be vacated as part of this request, as part of St. John's Development Company plat, St. John's Park. And so you have here is that same graphic on the plat itself, shown again in red, and showing those areas to be included within this vacation. And then the specific parcel shown in the survey, it's parcel A, also included within your packet. The limits are shown there. Within your packet accompanying the petition for the vacation were the consents from the utility providers, showing that there are no utility concerns that any of those companies had. They consented to the vacation. I'm also here to attest that there are no parcels that depend on any access points outside of this portion to be vacated, that if a roadway was vacated, they would then lose their access to their parcels through the vacation process. And so with that, I'll offer up the resolution that's been prepared, that's part of your packet, vacating and abandoning that part of the plat of St. John's Park subdivision, including vacating Davis Street, Hamilton Street, and a portion of Lakeview Extension. With that, I'll close and I'll wait any questions or comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, I just couldn't resist asking this. Darby is a pretty famous name when it comes to the Board of County Commissioners from long ago. Is this the same family?
I'll let Mr. Darby talk about that, but I don't know if he knows his famous namesake, Chairman Jim Darby, that had been here for a long time, but he is not the same person.
Okay,
Certainly we had a couple of questions to commissioners about that, but hope he's doing well.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 8A, adoption of a resolution to vacate a portion of the plat of St. John's Park.
Second. So we have a motion and a second. We'll open this item up to public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on item 8A? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. Bring it back to entertain the motion. All those in favor of the motion for approval of item 8A, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mengel. Next up is item 8B, and this is a discussion of the millions and millions of dollars that the Flagler County is going to receive courtesy of our federal government. How they're going to print the money to pay for it is another question for discussion for another day. But this is a discussion of the American Rescue Project funding suggestions from staff. And we have Chief of Staff, I guess.
Good morning, Heidi Petito,
Yes.
Interim Chief of Staff.
Is that the title? I get confused with what it is.
Right now, I'm Interim Chief of
Okay,
Staff, but
thank
thank you. So good morning, thank you. We wanted to just give you a quick overview of the American Rescue Plan and what exactly that is. And for the purpose of folks at home, the American Rescue Plan is part of the COVID-19 stimulus package. It's a $1.9 trillion economic stimulus bill that was passed by Congress and signed into law back in March. This particular portion was designed to deliver $350 billion to state, local, territorial, and tribal governments to help bolster the response to COVID, as well as economic impacts. So with part of this, they've identified what the funding can be used for. So a few of the things that's allowed is continued support of public health efforts to decrease the spread of the virus, as well as replacing lost public sector revenue to strengthen support for our vital public services and help retain our jobs. It's also allowed to support the immediate economic stabilization for households and businesses, as well as providing premium pay for essential workers. You can also invest in building, maintaining, and upgrading our water and sewer and broadband infrastructure. And I pause here because the first two items, there's been a lot of other economic stimulus money and other measures that have been rolled out in support of local households and businesses. As you're aware, we put roughly about $10 million into the local economy with the help of individual assistance and businesses related to the CARES Act. And recently, the governor has issued $1,000 per first responder for some of our essential workers. So in looking at that, just keep that in mind that staff's view was looking to invest in some of our infrastructure that we typically would not have this funding available for. With this, though, they did identify two areas of funding, or I'm sorry, of areas that we cannot use the funding, and one of them is to directly or indirectly offset a reduction in net tax revenue. But this is resulting from a change in law, regulation, or an administrative interpretation. We also cannot use this funding to deposit or contribute a big nest egg into our pension funds. So how much did we get? In total, the total amount allocated for Flagler County was a little over $22 million. This came direct from the federal government with the U.S. Treasury. It did not go through the state of Florida like some of our previous CARES Act funding had. We did receive our first allocation last month, so we did receive a little over $11 million. We anticipate getting our next allocation in 12 months. And talking to Jonathan Lord, he believes that'll probably be June of 2022 that we'll get our next allocation of a little over 11 million. So collectively working as staff, we've identified a few of these priorities. All of these issues or all of these priorities need to have a direct nexus to COVID-19. So some of the things that we had identified was continued support of public health efforts and expenditures, replacing lost revenue, investing in our water and sewer infrastructure, as well as investing in our broadband infrastructure. And in looking at the projects that we had identified, one of the things that we wanted to add was projects that also align with the legislative priorities that this board has adopted. So as we look through, this is phase one. All of the items that you see in green, not only do they have that nexus to COVID, but they also align with your legislative priorities that had been established by the board. So that first one that we have on there for providing water and sewer infrastructure to underserved areas in Flagler County. We've got mental health therapy, and this will allow us to expand access to mental health. We do have a replace for lost revenue. It's to be determined, but we've broken this out over both phases, so you'll see this again appearing in phase one and in phase two. We do have a reimbursement for COVID expenditures. This is for items that have not already been reimbursed. This is for a very small window from March until present. And in talking to Jonathan, there are other means of getting some additional reimbursement. So we just put in this very small amount moving forward. Should the need arise, there is other state funding and projects available for that. We are looking at creating some mental health initiatives with the formation of a mental health clinic. We've had some great conversations with some local private partnerships in trying to allocate some county space and do some remodeling so it fits their needs. We'll be bringing that back in front of you in the upcoming weeks. There's also expansion of water and sewer infrastructure at FGUA, which in this particular case is Plantation Bay. This will allow the county to give a contribution to them so that they can increase their water capacity in well fields, allowing for redundancy and not putting that increased cost on the ratepayers. So we're able to do that. And it's also able to help expand service to Old Dixie Road, providing water and sewer to the old hotel instead of having them on well and septic tanks. We also have the Malacompra Bings, which is part of a sewer infrastructure project, working with the city of Palm Coast on that. That again is part of a larger plan of eliminating septic tanks on the barrier island. We also have network upgrades in Office 365. This is a two-part. You'll see part of it in phase one, the remaining part in phase two. This will allow county staff the ability to work remote. This was huge. We had some challenges with the last pandemic. This will allow us to upgrade our ability moving forward. We also have the health department expand of program space. That's directly related to the services that they provide there and increasing some dental area. We've got the broadband initiative, which, as you know, Jorge Salinas had presented earlier. This is something that he had been working on directly with a vendor and looking to provide broadband to the underserved areas of Flagler County. This money will allow that entity to expand services. I believe they had gotten a grant of about $1.2 million. This million will allow them to actually expand their territory and a lot quicker than otherwise thought. We've got the Bull Creek Campground, which is a county facility. Again, it's on well and septic. This will allow us to improve the water quality out there, as well as improvements to the septic. And that septic system is fairly close to a body of water out there with Dead Lake. We also will start the development of a drainage project for Flagler County. This is the amount allocated for the development of that drainage plan. And again, all of the green items are ones that tie to our legislative as well as have a direct nexus to COVID. That brings up phase 2 allocation. This would be the implementation of the drainage plan, as well as the next item is the replacement of lost revenue. This would be the second allocation of lost revenue. We also have on here the Ag Museum and Princess Place Preserve. Both of those locations, we would look to expand water and sewer. They're currently on well and septic. This would allow us to get both of these facilities off of the sewer system, especially when you consider their close proximity to Pellisier Creek and the outstanding waterways there and the estuaries that we're trying to protect. And based on the, it's probably good timing, based on the foot traffic that we currently see at these locations and what we anticipate seeing in the future at the Ag Museum. There was a request to add a drive-through window at the tax collector site. This would be in Flagler Beach location. This would give them the ability to reduce close contact with customers, allowing for a drive-through window. We also have in here some public facility COVID adaptations, which would be for us to implement some strategy mitigation measures moving forward. Some of those have not been fine-tuned, but we have looked at the ability of taking space and allowing for social distancing, improvements to HVAC, things of that nature. We also have on here public restroom facilities, which would increase our availability of public restroom facilities in support of public health. We've got a number of county facilities, parks, that are without permanent restroom facilities and wash stations. They rely on porta potties, so we're looking at getting those cleaned up and able to put in some of those facilities. And we're also able to implement the second phase of the network upgrades in Office 365. And some of these projects, as we looked at them, are things that maybe we wouldn't have an alternative means to pay for them. They would have been relying on the general fund. That gives us the ability to reallocate those general fund dollars to stretch a little further with moving forward. But so in looking at the project summary by purpose, we've got public health efforts at roughly $7 million. Replacing of lost revenue is about $2 million. Your water and sewer infrastructure, a little over $12 million. Broadband infrastructure at $1 million, which that's your total allocation of the $22,353,135. But in looking at this, we were able to make a correlation not just to COVID, but to your legislative priorities, and that's aligned at about 9.9, roughly just under 10 million. So this is being brought to you for an action item. Staff is seeking guidance on moving forward with the proposed projects and looking for approval to the county administrator for implementation of Phase 1. Many of the projects in Phase 1 require the use of outside consultants to draft plans. We are working with the city of Palm Coast. There's some utility work that needs to be designed, permitting requirements. So at this point, we're really just looking for approval moving forward of Phase 1. And then as we move forward with this, we will come back to the board and give you project updates as well as potentially revising Phase 2 prior to implementation.
Sorry, we have some questions from the commissioners, so
Sure.
Commissioner Mullins.
No, I want to say, I was on a call with the NACO Transportation and Infrastructure program, and then also a call with our Workforce Development Board that I serve on. And many counties across the country are getting this money and being very quiet about getting it. They're not being very transparent to their constituents. They're using it for, they're either holding it or putting it back into reserves or using it for things that really aren't is needed in their community as should be. I want to thank y'all for being being very transparent with this. Thank staff for being very transparent and very open to the public with it. Also, I noticed there are a lot of our county priorities that we set forth this year that were very passionate for all of us, and very important for the community, that are being addressed in this, that were not addressed on a state level because they simply just didn't have the money. I know our state representative and senator fought hard for us, but they came back and said we're just seeing so many cuts in areas. So one of them is broadband, which is very important infrastructure need. The second one is the drainage in the communities, and not just the west side, but the west side certainly has its drainage challenges, but we also have them on coastal areas. The Malacompras, Bings area, I am anti-septic tank as it comes, and I love anytime we talk about getting rid of septic tanks and putting it on a much better environment, because I don't want our beautiful waterways to look like it does down south. And that's very important for our kids and the future of them. But also the underserved areas, there's so much of this money that's going towards the west, some of the initiatives of the west side, and I am very thankful for that, and able to go out and tell them that is happening. Also, one of the big things that I've battled with since day one, and I know the other commissioners are very passionate on this, and we're starting to see progress. None of us want Flagler County to be #1 in suicide, and we've known and been very respectful of the fact that we don't have mental health services here, and the fact that that's going to be a reality very soon, that we will have them. Mental health, a drop-in center, some really good private-public partners at the table. That just makes me happy. If I can't claim one thing during my 4 years, that's one thing that I would want to be able to say we did, is helped get us off that #1 list and way back in the back of it. And that is becoming a reality, and I'm very excited. Also, the way y'all are approaching the broadband and the mental health. I had a very extensive call with Representative Renner, who is going to be our Speaker of the House, and one of his big initiatives is private-public partnership. And the fact that you guys are addressing the broadband and the mental health on a private-public partnership way, he was very excited to see, and looking forward to talking more about that. But like I told him, with him Speaker of the House, we want to be the model. We want to be the model county in Florida that gets all the funding to be able to get these things reality. But all of these are being addressed, and I think this is very important to point out, at not an increase by the taxpayers' money, which has been a threat to many times when people ask for services. The comment by past elected officials were, we've got to go up on your taxes to do this. We got to go up on your taxes. Well, there are other ways to make things happen, and being at the table nationally, fighting for this money, being at the table statewide, fighting for this money, looking at grants, having staff cut back in areas and work in areas that we need it, that's ways you make it happen, and I want to thank y'all for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one clarification. I know we here on the board all are fully aware of this, but I'm not sure the public is fully aware that this time, as compared to the money we got in the previous year for some of these same purposes, we don't have to share this with the cities. The cities get their own direct grants this time. So last time, we had to kind of be the overseer of that and make sure the money was spent correctly. This time, there's a significant amount of money that is allocated by population to, for instance, Palm Coast, Flagler Beach, and the other municipalities. So I think it's important this time that we have a lot more control over the money, and this plan, it looks great to me. I mean, if we can pull off this and get it done, it's going to be a real asset to the community.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sands?
Sure. I appreciate the first flush of this. I mean, I think all of us, as we go through and dig into more details on these things, I would appreciate, as we move forward, kind of monthly updates on where are on the priorities of Phase 1 and the status and more details as we move forward of how that future timeline's going to work out. I know there's deadlines built within this too that we have to be cognizant of. And I see a lot of these, I see the money helping us, right? The catchword nowadays is resiliency. We need to be able to bounce back quicker from potentially even future pandemics. So I see a lot of this as preventative for and becoming a little more resilient in those regards. And that's how kind of I'm going to look at these projects as well.
Well, thank you. And yes, there is a deadline for the allocation. It has to be allocated by 2024. So time is of the essence, but we can definitely come back to the board with project updates once we start implementing Phase 1.
And I guess I just wanted to thank staff for the hard work on putting together this, these items. I made light of the huge amount of money. I mean, $1.9 trillion is just a mind-boggling number. But the reality is, if our citizens in Flagler County send millions and millions of dollars up to Washington in the form of income taxes, and this is money coming back to us. And I can't think of a better, way to spend it locally than us being in control of that and being able to make the decisions. I think that's the most efficient use of the money rather than it flowing through the state to us. And so, again, appreciate the work that you've done there. And I'm appreciative of the fact that you've aligned the projects with our legislative priorities and things that we do, as the other commissioners have said, have in our strategic plan and have talked about for a long time. So good work on that. Commissioner Dance, I think you had something else?
No, that's it.
I must have missed you there. Commissioner Hanson?
Thank you so much to people of Willow Woods who finally have water. Thank you.
Well, I couldn't take all the credit myself, so this was definitely a group effort, but thank you all.
All right. So, yeah, I think they're looking for a motion of support for the
Phase 1.
For Phase 1 and approval to the county administrator to move forward with that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the plan for Phase 1 and we give authority to the county administrator to execute it.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, and we need to open that up for public comment. So anyone from the public wish to comment on this particular item under discussion?
Teal Youth, first of all, I would love to compliment Heidi Petito for her years and years of dedicated service to the county. I do not mean anything against her. The $1,500,000 to FGUA to help the hotel that was left in shambles for years because the former owners couldn't get water. This has me somewhat disturbed because we in Plantation Bay still have $6 to $7 million debt on our head that was incurred by the county commission without our knowledge, without our consent. So, and we need new wells, which were under a state consent order when Maury Husseini still owned the utility. And Mr. O'Brien, I wish you would pay attention. I do pay your salary. $1,500,000 to FGUA towards development of a hotel. We don't even know who owns this new hotel for $650,000. What about the $5 million that we still owe in Plantation Bay for this water project? I think instead of the hotel, there needs to be more money allocated to offset the unfair debt on the citizens of Plantation Bay. And I do thank Jerry. I do thank Jerry Cameron very, very much. I see USA Water Service out there all the time, and I know that they cannot raise our rates for another year and a half. But our rates are going to go up. So if you have $1.5 million, forget about the hotel. I don't even know who owns that new hotel. And whoever got it for $650,000. My husband and I would have bought it. And now you're going to take $1.5 million for a hotel that had no water for 10 years. That's why it went into shambles. But we in Plantation Bay are still stuck with a $5 million debt. And Mr. Mullins, Plantation Bay is your district. The hotel isn't. And you're the most obnoxious individual who has no intention of caring about your district. I am going to fight for the people of Plantation Bay. We got screwed when we paid $5.5 million without any say-so and encumbered $11 million because the county attorney let the commissioners go ahead and vote and pay double what the facility was worth. And you went ahead and you dumped it all on our heads. But you're gonna fancy this up so the hotel can open under the new operators, and I really wonder who LLC really is. I am disgraced that the $1.5 million to FGOA should go to retire the debt of the innocent citizens of Plantation Bay.
Any other public comment on this item, which is
8B.
8B, excuse me. All right, seeing no one else come forward, we'll close public comment. We can bring it back for action on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to public hearings. And again, we'll just remind everyone that these are quasi-judicial matters. The audience should refrain from clapping, booing, or shouts of approval or disagreement to avoid potential legal ramification and possible overturning of a decision by the courts. A public hearing must be fair in 3 respects with respect to form, substance, and appearance. We have time limits that'll be observed. Staff has up to 10 minutes for their presentation. The applicant has up to 15 minutes. For their presentation, we will have public comment where each speaker gets up to 3 minutes. And then we'll have some rebuttal and closing comments that can last up to 10 minutes. So with that, we're going to open up item 9A. Again, this is a quasi-judicial matter. It's application number 3239, semi-public use in R1 Rural Residential District for equine therapy, which is DBA Whispering Meadows Ranch at 511 John Anderson Highway. Parcel number there is delineated, owned by Richard and Mary Helene Davis. So we'll start with any ex parte communication disclosures. Commissioner Dance.
I'll disclose, I had a conversation over the weekend with Miss Joanna Davis, who was really just to get background information on the school district's part of the property out by the fairgrounds. No additional information other than that factual background.
Commissioner Hanson.
Just lots of emails on this subject come in.
Other than driving out and looking at the current location, which I did, and just kind of drove by and then looked at some of the other options, I have, in a few emails, I haven't had any communication.
Yeah, I'll disclose that I drove out there twice to look at it.
Pretty much the same with me, both email, drive out to look at the location, and individual conversations, but they were all for informational purposes, and we also brought this up at a previous meeting. So there's been a lot of information out there, but nothing that would affect my ability to vote on this.
And I would disclose the same, have gone there and walked the adjacent property and looked around, had many emails as all of us have, and have had conversations with a number of citizens over the month or so regarding this this item. So, Mr. Mengel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adam Mengel, Growth Management Director, and just created a couple of slides here that replicate again the location characteristics that you have provided in the staff report. This is the parcel of 5011 John Anderson Highway. That small square that's there further down is the common area parcel that these parcels have a shared ownership in, is to provide intercoastal access. And this was the site plan for the 5011 site. And with that, wanted to provide this other option that we put into the packet that differs from what had been previously discussed, and what we're exploring now is this location at County Road 13. And if we're proceeding with that, it looks like every step is heading in that direction. That site will then have us seeking Florida Department of Environmental Protection approval of the use as trustees of the Internal Improvement Trust Fund on behalf of the trustees, so that it is required because of our leasing arrangement that we have at the fairgrounds. Amendment of the management plan for the fairgrounds property to account for this new use. Coordination with the Future Farmers of America, who through the school district sublease an adjacent portion of the fairgrounds for educational activities. We don't want to adversely impact their use of this facility. Approval of a semi-public use and site plan for the site. So different from this application, this will be a specific application for this new location. Completion of site work, including land clearing, utility installation, driveway connection, and vertical construction of improvements, including stables, barns, paddocks, landscaping, fencing, and caretaker housing. So those steps, many of which would not be able to be completed certainly in the next 2 weeks, but we want to get closer with those. We want to be able to have some affirmative discussion with DEP regarding that kind of the assignment of an additional use here at this site. We think that this does have some advantages. It does move this then out of the present site of 5011 John Anderson Highway. And then probably the biggest consideration would be that it would require then another semi-public use application that would come in. This application effectively would not be approved or denied, would just fall away. And so we'd come forward then with that other application in the next few months as we move forward with this. I did provide then another option in your ability to consider options on this, and that was the tabling to a time and date certain to our next meeting on the 21st. After talking with counsel for Whispering Meadows, that he's got a direct conflict with that, and knowing also that didn't leave us much time, I think I'd stand before you now and say July may be more realistic for us to come back in our July meeting, our single meeting in July, and be able to provide you an update of where we're at with this site and be able to give you more conclusive information on whether or not that site is viable as a consideration. And that with that, I'll offer that, I believe, as the sole option, at least a recommendation from staff, that you strongly consider tabling this request and effectively hold any other public comments in abeyance in anticipation of that July meeting. With that, I'll close and await any questions or comments. Thank you.
Commissioners?
Well, I agree with his recommendation. I think we ought to push this down the road until we've got a little better answer. I think there's too many things up in the air right now.
Ms. 30, is July going to be sufficient? I mean, I know in the planning stages, there's a lot of information still in the potential move. So, I mean, I'll make a motion to table until we have one meeting in July?
Yes, sir.
To the meeting in July. July 12th. Is it an evening meeting or morning?
I would, I don't want to kick this thing too far around. I mean, this is a very important topic and a very big thing in the community, well needed. And whether it be there or wherever it is, I think it's very important to offer stuff like this in a community. But if giving a little more time helps both parties come to something reasonable, I'm always, as long as negotiations are occurring, I'm always supportive and strong with it. But I make no false claims, and I'm very transparent. I publicly love services like this. So as long as they keep going and they keep doing it in the interim, I'm okay. So.
I apologize, Commissioner Dance. I should have let you finish the motion. Did you?
No, we've only got one meeting in July. Preferably, I'd rather have it an evening meeting, but if the only meeting in July is morning, I don't know how we get around that. Just, we'll make the best we can.
So you have a motion to table this
Table it.
item till
July.
July the 12th?
Right.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on, let me see if
okay.
we get a second to that
Okay.
motion. Do we
Second.
We have a second, okay? So, discussion.
The only, in making this motion to continue, should we say something along the lines of where we're headed? In other words, we're headed for what we feel will be a mutually agreeable decision, and that may help overall on the people on John Anderson Parkway the other members who are involved with this to feel that there is a solution in the offing and that the services that are currently provided will continue until that decision is finalized.
That's
I
too
just-
long of a motion.
What? Okay.
It's clear in the agenda item what the options are and what the county's doing, so I believe in just tabling it. The information's there.
We're continuing it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on that, on the tabling motion. Just point of clarification for the attorney. Mr. Adi, do we need public comment on that?
Yes, you should open it up for a couple of comment.
Just on tabling?
Yes,
We're not tabling it.
it's on all,
We're continuing.
We're continuing.
Tabling we're continuing it to a time certain.
Yes.
I think that you should take public comment. I know there are views that might differ on that, but I err on the side of the legislation that requires us to take comment on all matters other than formalities, certain kinds of formalities that are exempted.
Okay, with that advice, I will open up this item for public comment again regarding the motion to, I believe it's continue.
It says continue table. Are they interchangeable?
Well, table's not, is different.
I'm just reading what the
Yeah.
staff had put down.
I think that the proper terminology would be table, because what we'll do is we're tabling to a time certain to the July meeting, correct? Was that the intent of the motion?
That was the motion, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll open up public comment on that motion and that motion alone. Anyone from the public wish to comment on that motion?
Morning, Chairman, members of the commission. Dennis Bear here on behalf of Whispering Meadows. We do appreciate, under Mr. Cameron's leadership, the actions that the county has taken since the planning board to work with us in finding an alternative location. Planning staff, other members of the staff have really worked with us to try to, in good faith, come up with an alternative location. So we look forward to continued negotiations and discussions with the county. I think we made a lot of progress since the last time we were here, and we will continue to work with them. And so I don't think we didn't come prepared to get into the pros and cons of the proposal, but I can give you my word that we will continue to work with your staff to find a good solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. That helps. Anyone else?
Hi there. My name is Christine Aguirre with Spring Meadows Ranch. I just thought it was important to come here today. I want to thank Mr. Cameron and his staff for helping us through this process. I wanted to give you an update on Whispering Meadows Ranch and our programs. For this summer, we've decided to really limit our horsemanship activities on a very, very small basis, just a couple mornings a week for 2 hours. We've canceled all of our summer camp activities. We work very closely with the Guardian Ad Litem and Community Partnership for Children organizations, designing summer activities. By canceling this, it's affected about 40 to 50 children who are not participating in these activities. We've also canceled all of our community group service projects for the spring and the summer. That includes our horse show for our kids with special needs, having the Girl Scouts and Boy Scout troops coming out and working on community projects, the Kiwanis, Lions Clubs, several neighborhood women and men's groups throughout the counties. They've all been canceled for coming out to the ranch. And I wanted to share this with you for 2 reasons. One, the reach of this program goes way beyond serving these kids. And the community wants to be a part of something that creates a positive impact, and they found this to be true through our projects and activities that they create for these families. We do have a really wonderful and giving community. We really want to take care of this, so let's work together and let the community give back. And the other thing is, we did this to clear our schedule completely to work with the county. We have made ourselves readily available to the staff to meet and start discussions. We've made this our top priority, and I hope that the county is going to make this a top priority too, so we can come to a solution and continue this program in this county. Thank you.
Okay, any other, again, we need to just limit our comments to the motion to table.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm John Tanner. I'm a resident of John Anderson. In fact, I'm right across the street from Mr. Davis's operation and the therapy programs going on over there. I also represent several of the neighbors who are in the immediate vicinity. We also support the tabling and join Mr. Bear in saying that we are very much involved and want to be involved in the negotiations. I just want to make certain that we're recognized by the administration and by the legal department and by Mr. Bear as having a voice at the table as they discuss the finite details. We have a significant interest, obviously, in what goes on in our deed-restricted community. Any business whatsoever violates the restrictive covenants and the restrictions of record. Now, we're not asking this county to enforce deed restrictions and covenants. We're just asking the county not to take any action that appears to support or to undercut, support basically undermining or in derogation of the very clear language. No business should be operated in the Beulah Woods subdivision. And we want to help make this work. We pledge to do that. We just want to make certain we have a seat at the table and as the details are worked out. Thank you.
Let's quickly move on our transition, please. Again, comments should be about the motion on the floor, which is the motion to table this item.
It's about the motion.
Okay.
This is the young man that started this program with the Davises.
Well, please introduce yourself.
I'm Christina Blackburn. This is my son, Brennan Courier.
Mhm.
I thank you all for tabling the motion, looking to solve the problem. I've lived in this county all my life. I've raised my son, my other son here. This program has worked wonders for this child. He shouldn't be standing here today, but he is because of the Davises. So I hope and I pray that you guys do your best to work with both parties and make this happen, because this child depends on that ranch. And without that ranch, he's not going to be able to know what to do because his county doesn't have anything else for him to do. I thank you for taking the time to try to work things out so my son has a place to belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one else come forward, we'll close public comment for this item and our motion. I think, did you have something else?
No, I just want to say, I thank all parties for coming to the table and talking. We're going to get a lot of things resolved this way, other than attacking and going back and forth. And for the ranch, thank y'all for what you do. Keep these programs going right now. I mean, you heard the other opposing groups say they're okay with it. Keep them going. Keep these kids engaged. It's important. I've dealt with it in my lifetime, and it's very, very crucial. But thank you.
All right, I'm going to call a question. The motion on the floor is to table this item for until July the 12th at our next scheduled, no, it's our only meeting in July, table for July the 12th. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you to everyone. Thank you. Okay. All right, item 9B. This is proposal of an ordinance amending Article 8, Chapter 20 of the Flagler County Code of Ordinances prohibiting sexual offenders and sexual predators from residing within 2,500 feet of certain locations frequented by children. And I know there was discussion of this item with our sheriff, and a letter we received from the sheriff, and I guess you're going to lead us through this, Mr. Hadid? What?
He looks surprised.
I think our sheriff is.
Sheriff, would you like to,
Lead us through it?
would you like to start off, please, sir?
Rick Staley, Sheriff, Flagler County. I want to thank the chair and the commission and Mr. Hadid's office and the county administrator for addressing the letter that I wrote on April 12th. You know, one of our responsibilities is protection of our children. And when I had my staff look at the ordinances, both in the city of Palm Coast and in Flagler County, we just thought there needed to be some adjustment. While we have a good basic ordinance existing, what we don't have in it is the ability to enforce where sex predators and sex offenders that are classified under the law to stay away from libraries, open spaces where, and facilities where children participate in events, and bus stops. And I think it's the bus stops that actually drew my attention the most. And so really all that you're doing, my understanding, and certainly your attorney and staff can provide better details, is you're adjusting the existing ordinance to include those additional areas where sex predators cannot live. And I think it's critically important that we do that so that my deputies have the tools to keep our children safe.
And Sheriff, just point of clarification, the city of Palm Coast has, their ordinance says 2,500 feet, correct?
That's what my staff has told me, and I know, well, the city, as you know, is kind of in a flux right now. And so they also received a letter from me to do some adjustments. When that's going to come before them, I'm not sure.
But we're changing 1,000 to 2,500 also in our ordinance.
Correct.
Right, okay. That's
Correct.
no
The
brainer.
state of Florida law says a minimum of 1,000. 2,500 feet makes it a lot better, safer in my opinion, for the kids. I really don't care where sex offenders, you know, if they're inconvenienced, too bad.
Yeah.
It's more important about protecting the children.
Sheriff, I want to say, as a father of a 15-year-old who walks the neighborhood alone, walking her dog, and having other kids, I appreciate you taking this as top and putting it as a top priority as you are. Also, the city of Bunnell, she walks through there many times, and you guys have been phenomenal keeping it safe and addressing the sex offenders. There's churches over there, there's parks, there's organizations that have kids events, and you know, just keeping it safe is very important. So I want to thank you as a father that this is a very serious initiative and very serious and near and dear to me.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, yes, obviously, we want to do everything we can to protect our children. I'm just a little worried, 2,500 feet is close to a half a mile. And if you put a half-mile circle around every school, bus stop, all those things you mentioned, there's not going to be a lot of area left in the city and county for people to live. It doesn't bother me, but I just say that that's a pretty significant area that will be covered by that 2,500-foot circle.
Well, that was the recommendation that my staff came up with, and maybe if we make it legally difficult, they'll move to another county. I'd just assume them not be here at all, quite frankly.
We all
but-
agree.
But unfortunately, I can't control that.
Commissioner Dance?
Yeah, thank you. More and more municipalities, this isn't groundbreaking, it's just following on what a lot of other municipalities have started. I think Deltona was recent. But the ball will be back in the city of Palm Coast because they don't cover bus stops, this does. So they'll have to go back, you know, now you gotta work with the city to make the two of ours consistent.
And Commissioner, that's been my request to the city of Palm Coast also in a very similar letter.
And some additional coordination with the school district on what permanent bus stops and the locations of all of them. I know there's quite a few, but Some of them change from time to time, so some of them aren't permanent. So we just need a little clarification with the school district on what the permanent bus stops are.
We can work with the school district, and I have a detective that is solely assigned to sex offender compliance.
Right. I know in talking to Andy West at the school district that he does talk continually with SRDs and your office on locating bus stops as it is now. So I know there's a good relationship there.
Correct.
Yeah, just great job. I know when you've taken office, a lot of things were neglected and left. You've done a great job in the last few years getting things up to date and public safety put out in the forefront, Sheriff.
Well, let me just say I have a great team, but it also includes the Board of County Commissioners and the city elected officials, because without the partnership, we can't do our job for the community. So I thank you.
Mr. Adid?
I don't have any comments other than, under the ordinance, the sheriff's office will be mapping the areas where individuals will be permitted to live, given the standards.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Maybe stay around just in case public comment generates any additional things, please. Appreciate it. All right, so we'll open this item up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on item 9B? No, we can get comment first, I think, sir.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Robin Paletta, Halifax Plantation. I just have one question about this ordinance. Sometimes sexual offenders and sexual predators get commingled, and I was wondering if the sheriff could elaborate on the types of offenses other than the ones that we're aware of in terms of child molestation. But from what I've been reading, there are also teenagers who are having consensual sex, but because they're underage, or the female may be underage, the male gets labeled as a sexual predator. And I was wondering if this ordinance would apply in situations like that.
There's an exclusion for if you're found guilty of that as a minor. So there's an exclusion built into it for minors.
Okay, but if one of the partners, say the male or the female, is 18, and theoretically the age of adulthood or consent, would they be on the list then?
It states minors. I'll let the sheriff.
Yeah, we're
clarify.
not.
Yeah, that's what I would like clarification on.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paletta. Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this item? All right, we'll close the public comment portion. Did you want to address that question, Sheriff?
Rick Staley, Flagler County Sheriff. So there are different levels of what broadly would be considered sex offenders. And the ones that we're referring to here are the ones that statutorily that meet the criteria, and a judge has adjudicated them a sex predator or the top level sex offender on these different levels. So while the speaker is correct that there are cases where an adult or almost an adult, meaning age 18, is having sexual relations with a minor, there is a violation of the law. But unless the judge adjudicates to that level, and that depends on meeting the criteria under the statute, it would not apply.
Okay. All right. If there's no other comments or questions, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve item 9B, which is our ordinance amending Article 8, Chapter 20, the Flagler County Code of Ordinances.
Motion, do we have a
Second.
second? Motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. And our last item here under the Section 9 is an ordinance creating a new planned affordable development section of the Land Development Code and establishing incentives to increase the supply of affordable housing. And this is our first public hearing on this item. Mr. Mangle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Adam Mangle, Growth Management Director, and we elected to do this in a two-part process. We had no obligation to do so. We did talk some about whether or not this changes the list of actual permitted or permissible uses in a zoning district. So out of caution, I think we opted for that two-hearing process. That also gives us a chance to have a couple of things happen. So we mentioned in our packet, tomorrow night, Planning and Development Board will be able to review this and provide some recommendations for you in between that first and second reading. And then also, we're going to take this back to the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. We had gone to them May 25th, had some great comments from them. Those have been incorporated into the ordinance. We're going to go back to them then on the 15th before this comes back to you then in 2 weeks. And so briefly, those comments that Mr. Cameron and I were able to discuss with the AHAC. They wanted to have imposing rent caps on properties developed using these incentives in the ordinance equal to the formula used by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation and based on area median income and household size and adjusted for inflation, requiring those rent caps to remain in place for a period of 20 years or whatever that period may be. But I think that 20 years is what we've incorporated in here, specifying that developers cannot circumvent rent caps by charging extra fees. We've talked about where those instances come in where it happens, where they add in other amenity fees or parking fees, whatever they may be, to be able to subvert the rent cap amounts. And then bringing this ordinance back to the board for evaluation and possible revision after 1 year. Really like that idea, so that gives us a chance to come back and see if we're effective, if this is being used, if we need to tweak this a little bit. And so we've made those changes to the ordinance that you have before you. And we'd offer that then for first reading. And with that expectation, we're going to go to the planning board again, back to the AHAC. We'll come back maybe with some more revisions based on that. But with that, I'll close. Wait any questions or comments from you. Thank you.
Commissioners, Commissioner Dance.
Thank you for the additional processes. I think sometimes we do things because we're allowed to do them on short without some additional public input, but this gives us public input through the planning board, which is, I look forward to sitting and hearing the comments there, and through the committees and through the public. And we've got some time built in, which is more what I'm used to. It's almost like second readings of adoptions, and it's a good opportunity for the home builders, other planners that want to take a look at this. I'll probably have some small groups myself just to flush this out and try and think of what the best options are or worst case scenarios that might be built in. I think we had that conversation about worst case scenarios. So thank you for the additional time for us to be able to flesh this out. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Mullins.
I want to thank you for getting this put out front, Mr. Cameron, you and staff, and allowing the council to work on it, the Affordable Housing Council also that I serve on. I want to clear up a couple of things that's kind of circulated out there and being said. I mean, this is no means anyone trying to say that they're going to the Mondex and putting Section 8 housing or affordable housing. What this is a land ordinance that is encouraging the development of housing, of what I call entry-level housing, and housing to be able to give the people against the wall, first responders, the gentleman, our police sheriff's office standing, his colleagues, and giving them the opportunity to have housing they can afford, giving nurses, giving school teachers, giving staff members that work as aides and kids graduating high school that need to go out and move out because they can't stay in their home. This is giving them an option to have homes. I own a lot of the workforce housing, which is I like to call entry level. We screen them, we go through them with a fine-tooth comb, making sure they can afford it. They take care of the place. We background check them. This is done all over the Southeast, and you can't ask for these services to be provided in a community and not give the option of individuals to be able to live in the community. These are great citizens that need to have the same benefits and the same opportunities that all of us have. And certainly we're not targeting an area of the Mondex or anything like that. We're targeting Flagler County. We're saying Flagler County needs to have this balance in housing. It's happening all over. I just heard yesterday or last week in the committee meeting, San Diego's tore down their stadium to create housing for professionals to be able to live and work in student housing and nurses, first responders. They tore down the stadium and they're creating some major development out there. This is counties all over the country are dealing with this issue. Give the opportunity for these individuals to have homes and to have a safe place to live as well. And I'm glad to see that, and I'm glad to see that Flagler County is moving towards that direction.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yeah, Adam, I was grateful to see that you retain our flexibility in there.
Yes.
Which is, I think, is very important that we as a commission have the flexibility to work this. And that's very important. Thank you very much for keeping that in there.
Anyone else, commissioners?
Well, I just agreeing with what Commissioner Hanson said, because it depends on where you live, what is affordable housing. You know, if you're in the middle of a 5 million person city, or living in a more rural area or area with more open spaces and everything, and the cost of livings are different, I think the flexibility part is very important. So I'm in agreement with that.
All right. We'll open this one up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on item 9C?
Jane Gentile, Youth Plantation Bay. There's something that you were not told about affordable housing. I am totally in favor of people having housing. The affordable housing plan gives great tax cuts to the developers. And this is, to me, what this is about. We can rezone any land for multifamily housing. You guys have the power to do that. The minute you stick that word in affordable, the developers are going for the tax incentives, and we as a county also lose on our property tax base when developers use the government program, affordable housing. It doesn't always work like you think it's going to work. I don't see any reason why land cannot be zoned in this county for multiple family zoning with rent restrictions. When you use the affordable housing federal program, it gives big tax breaks to the profits made by the builders and developers. And a friend of mine who started out in a one-bedroom condo on Brickell Avenue now owns a 20,000 square foot home on Hillsborough Island worth over $22 million. How did Lou Sweezy make his money? Affordable housing tax breaks. I'm for housing for people, multifamily housing. You can rezone any land, but make sure that you don't approve anything that is going to cut into the taxable revenue to the taxpayers in Flagler County by giving the builders or contractors tax breaks, because I'll come back to haunt you on that one.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this item?
Good morning. I'm Toby Tobin from Palm Coast. The proposed ordinance has my full support. We must make room for workers within our community. We cannot continue to insist that our pizza is delivered on time while expecting our pizza delivery person to live in Putnam County. Paved roads should be encouraged but not required in this ordinance. Pervious surfaces reduce the impact of stormwater management systems and the overall cost of infrastructure, and in a rural setting can be entirely appropriate. The proposed PAD ordinance is a big step forward. Residential growth is exploding, but job-creating commercial development remains anemic. Businesses need workers, and workers need a place to live. Most entrepreneurs are not age 65 plus. If we don't reverse this trend, our government's ever-growing budget will increasingly be borne on the backs of residential property owners. Zoning has become the crabgrass and the lawn of smart planning. Its genesis during the automobile era needs innovative rethinking. For instance, Flagler Beach is a county jewel. It's popular not only because of its location, but because it's funky and iconic. But Flagler Beach evolved organically without zoning. It could not be built today under today's zoning restrictions. Palm Coast was laid out by some of the most innovative planners of their time. In retrospect, their product has a walkability score near 0. The street layout precludes a viable public transportation system. Stormwater swales preclude sidewalks. You need to drive to almost any destination, even to our heralded trail system. Affordability is becoming an issue in the middle market as well. I encourage the county staff in the future to consider including some of the PAD language in its PUD ordinance, but without the financial incentives or rent and resale controls. Innovative zoning is a breath of fresh air. To staff, thank you for your good work.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment on this item?
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Sherry Gilbert. I live on the west side of the county. You say you want to do affordable housing, and I'm for it too, just like everyone else is. But you're doing it way out in the country, even for the people that work at hospitals, schools, things like that. You want to come in and take a piece. Now, these two pieces, the one that's on 2006, that's separate entity from the Daytona North one. Mr. Mullins, on your comment that you wrote here, you put in your comments that it wasn't out there, that it was off of US 1, that you did not have no idea why somebody would give false facts. So they're really not false facts, correct?
You just have to say what you want to say and then
Okay,
finish,
so
okay?
what it is no, I don't think they should live out there so far away from anything. Like everybody else, there's going to be a lot more. Y'all need to change a meeting possibly till 7 p.m. where everybody can get off work to attend these. You know, that's the easiest way to do this. And you'll find out, you need to talk to your people out there before you go and press any of this. And you did say it was off US 1.
Okay, anyone else from the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing no one approach the podium, I'll close public comment and bring it back for any further discussion, commissioners, or a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you, and thank you for the comments. Thank you, Mr. Mengel. All right, we'll move on to additional reports and comments. Mr. Cameron.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take this opportunity to have our Chief of Staff, Salinas, introduce our top candidate for Fire Chief, and he is here with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. A little bit over a month and a half ago, we initiated the process of the selection for the Flagler County next Fire Chief. We received over 30 applications from multiple states across the country. Recently we conducted formal and objective interviews on the top 5 candidates. This past Wednesday, June the 2nd, we made a conditional offer to Mr. Michael Tucker. Mr. Michael Tucker has over 35 years of fire service experience and also some experience within being a fire chief at the villages. And on June 21st, we plan to bring this item for commission confirmation. And with that, I'll leave you with Mr. Michael Tucker.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the chairman. It's definitely an honor to be here, and it's an honor to be considered for this position. And obviously, Chairman Mullins, Commissioner Mullins, the Flagler County Fire Rescue has a strong reputation. My current role with the State Fire Marshal's Office, I've had the opportunity to work with the organization, most recently through the response to Hurricane Michael into the Panhandle, and the staff was absolutely professional and a joy to work with. So given this opportunity, I look forward to be able to help the organization continue to move forward and hopefully help the organization become stronger. And with that, I would be ready to answer any questions you may have.
I had one question. Your strength as an instructor, what are your first flushes? And I'm sure you had some exposure to the Leadership Academy that's at the high school. So just your first thoughts on that and where you see that going.
Well, obviously I had the opportunity, in my current role, I am the individual who authorized the activation or the implementation of that academy. And I believe that the fire service, in looking into the future, we have got to change the way that we recruit and retain our individuals. Traditionally, we have waited for these individuals to graduate high school into the academies on their own, and many people stumble into this industry. Not many people have, especially in the South, not many people have, legacy in the fire service. They don't have a father or a grandfather, an uncle or an aunt that are serving in the emergency services to guide them through how do you get into this field? And the academy-based programs, those high school-based programs, are a phenomenal way to introduce them early on, to the potential of becoming a firefighter and a paramedic, even a police officer or emergency communicator. Some academies have implemented the communications training as well. And so I believe that the high school-based programs are exactly what we need to do to address our future recruitment, diversity, and to be able to hopefully interject with some of these younger individuals before they've had the opportunity to make some serious mistakes that may keep them from getting into this industry. Unfortunately, teenage years are a time when students can, whether we like it or not, make some life-changing decisions, and that can affect their ability to get into this field. So these high school-based programs have got the ability to sort of guide them, and lead them to a career field that is phenomenal. I know the Flagler program is known for hiring a couple of individuals, several individuals out of the high school and into their workforce, and that is life-changing for these young men and women. And so, Flagler is a unique program, in the fact that they work with the individual to gain the firefighter 2. We actually have several other programs across the state that do this in the high school level, but they finish with their firefighter 1 and then have to go back to the academy to finish firefighter 2. So that is the uniqueness about the Flagler program. And it's a great program, and look to build upon that, as well, because again, it is life-changing for these individuals coming out of high school and be able to stay in their community, give back to their community, serve their community.
Thank you. No, I want to welcome you with the opportunity and look forward to talking to you more. I don't know if you know my history, but my family is full of fire chiefs and firemen throughout the state of Georgia, and they have been very strong public servants. I also have the #1 burn center in the world is started by my brother, my late brother, who passed away this month last year unexpectedly. And he taught me one thing near and dear to these guys. It's not about a show. It's not a fire department that needs to have the fanciest fire truck and polish it up. These guys make true risk for the community. They go out and do some incredible things. And when you see them bring people in that are burned and they stay there with them for weeks at a time, checking on them, kids especially, you realize how passionate firemen really are. And you guys do an incredible job. And our fire department, it means a lot to me because I feel like his legacy will live through my actions here in this fire community. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And obviously there are the out front, the clear things that we do, the responses to the emergencies. But the fire service has that ability to help at much more of an underlying level. your community paramedicine program is another gem that I believe the organization should be proud of, and looking forward to expanding and working in that program as well.
That's great to hear that.
Mr. Chairman, just how much can we talk about the timing of when Mr. Tucker would take over? You mentioned something in the beginning of the meeting on that, and since we're going to have the interim person here for a period of time, you might just go over those dates again. I think you went through it at the beginning, but whatever you said, I have forgotten.
It would be our desire to have him take over tomorrow, but he is got a loyalty factor to the people he presently works for, and feels like that he needs to give them sufficient notice. So in order to get his services, we're willing to accommodate that, and that is why we set up the interim period. I believe that your 30-day notice has been given.
Yes, sir, it has.
And that the date that you should arrive here is on 7/6. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Yeah, that is the first day that I won't be here. So we're happy to welcome him aboard. I admire the loyalty that he has to an existing employer. However, if things work out, he can come earlier. A phone call will make that happen. You do have to ratify this. He is going to be a director or department head, and Florida state law says that those decisions, while made by administration, must be ratified by the Board of County Commissioners, and I would expect you to see that in the next meeting coming to you as a consent item.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Cameron?
Yes, sir. As you well know, we received the mental health grant from the state. It was the only legislative request that we were granted this year, but it is a serious catalyst for getting a really robust mental health center in. We also have been able to set aside, as you approved today, some rescue funds for that to embellish it. We also have at least 2 community partners that have pledged to bring additional funding to it. It looks like this is going to be a partnership between the county and 3 or possibly 4 providers. We intend at this point to move the library and the other functions at that building site in Bunnell to another location until the new library is built, and that would become a cornerstone mental health service center, which is an ideal location for it, easily accessible, and just exactly the right size, and has a pretty good layout already. So we're moving forward with that, and we hope to have mental health services online by perhaps the end of the summer. The last thing is the next meeting will be my final meeting here. And my official date is, as I pointed out earlier and have discussed with a number of you, for retirement, my last day will be July the 3rd, selected because it's the end of that pay period. I am happy that on my last meeting is going to be a very happy occasion for me, that we'll be graduating the second Flagler Leadership Academy, and I can't think of a better thing to happen on the last day that I'm here. I do want to assure you that we are presently engaged in transition, that you have every reason to be confident that there will be very little notice of my leaving. You have some very competent people that are already up to speed, already doing a really great job. Your staff that supports them are really, really the best out there. So I'm looking forward to reading about great things continuing to happen in Flagler County.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cameron. Mr. Hadid. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, trying to get some other work done. Okay, several things to update you on. One, on the dunes. You recall from the last meeting that you authorized our proceeding against one of the owners in the South 2700 block, Mr. Searles. He has reached out, and we're going to do everything we can to address his issues. It's not about monetary consideration, so hopefully we can get a consent from him to execute a voluntary easement. As you know, we have another one down there who's going to be an owner. July 1, he has agreed that he will sign the easement. And for the other two owners involved, we have outstanding offers, and we're continuing to work with them. Okay, so that's on the dune. And also with the new city manager, Mr. Whitson, who you've met before here, we have begun to work together to where Flagler Beach may be able to address some of the issues that the owners are raising. So that's a very positive development, a proactive approach. So that's one. Number two, I want to let you know that in our affordable housing program, you know that we fund eligible residents if they currently occupy substandard housing or need help into getting appropriate housing where they might be constrained by financial limits. That is operated out of a trust fund, as I believe you know. We enter into mortgages. They are deferred payment mortgages. In other words, so long as they occupy the residence that we've helped finance or subsidize, and sometimes we build new homes, that they will not have to pay on the mortgage. The mortgage will be forgiven at a certain rate. Of course, if somehow it doesn't work out, all of that money remains due. And as you may recall, this would have been before Commissioner Dance, your term here. I don't know how long I guess when we went over the affordable housing program, we talked about the problem with foreclosures. We've had some of our folks just not do well for whatever reason. We're trying to institute some changes where we monitor those properties a little bit better and have an opportunity for early intervention. All right. One of those that actually was the centerpiece of my comments to you, those comments that I gave to you, had to do with the foreclosure, where we provided roughly $125,000 for a replacement home, which also included demolition of the existing substandard mobile home. I was very concerned about that situation. The property, there was a principal lender. We were number two, a subordinate lien holder. And the court finally, it was a very long, protracted case, granted the foreclosure. There was a sale at the courthouse, and somewhat unprecedented in our experience, there was a very significant surplus from the sale. There was approximately $90,000 surplus from the sale. So we petitioned the court just the very end of last week to obtain those surplus funds pursuant to the foreclosure laws and other standards that apply. So we'll hopefully, we've set a hearing with the judge. We'll hopefully have that $90,000. We'll be able to put it back into our program where we can reuse it to help other additional people. This is fairly unprecedented that we get a surplus sale of this magnitude to warrant trying to return those funds to us. So I wanted to let you know that. I was very pleased with that. I know that Joyce Bishop and her folks over there are also very pleased that we can bring that money back in. Thirdly, I want to let you know that I had alluded to it, I think at the last meeting, I believe, that the use of the public nuisance statute on the Old Dixie Motel was picked up for consideration by the Florida Association of Counties. At our last telephone conference, we had a special conference, statewide conference, on code enforcement and how to deal with the unique problems of code enforcement. The approach we took at the Old Dixie Hotel was one of the featured items of the discussion, and our pleadings were requested by the Association of County Attorneys because we had used a different statute that is not ordinarily utilized in those kinds of cases. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Hadid, Mr. Chair, may I ask him a question?
I'll allow it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hadid, I just want to thank you for what you've done with the Dixie Hotel and staff has done. The constituents that I've heard from over there have been really happy about it. They come out, they in that neighborhood and see it. The developer's been real excited about it. They just all are very, very happy about it. And the work that you have done in solving that and even getting the money that citizens have come in. I don't normally quote her, but even Ms. Yu saying that we need to collect on these fees and how important it is not to let them go. I want to thank you for that. And using her words in that as well, I'd like to really strongly encourage you to continue going after these three people, Kim Weeks and the others that owe this money to the county. Hold them accountable. Make them pay this county back. They wasted a lot of county resources. And as she said, it's important that we put that money back to the taxpayers. I want to see that as well. So please go after and get it done.
Well, as to both of those comments on the Old Dixie, I have to say that Mr. Cameron was really the true leader that put everything together to make this happen. And that meant coordinating a number of departments, including the building official, the planning department, actuating all of the efforts of the county to be able to get that done, and particularly too in conjunction with the sheriff. I have to mention the sheriff's assistance there. So there was a lot of effort put into it. Really, all we came up with was the statute, to be real honest with you, and just put it all together. As to the other, the Attorney General is prosecuting those. Those are all remain pending in the Tallahassee Circuit Court. That is to the amount of judgments, penal judgments that have been awarded in favor of Flagler County. I think if you add all of them up together, it'd be about $250,000.
That would build a heck of a well.
Thank you.
Mr. Hadid, did one of those cases where the Attorney General actually filed contempt, what's the status of that one?
The Attorney General is still pursuing that.
So it's alive and well.
It remains pending.
Anything else, Mr. Hadid?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 10C, which is our second community outreach portion. Again, it's a 30-minute time period allotted for public comment for items not on the agenda, and each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes. It's open.
Jane Gentile, since it's a rebuttal to the attorney, Kim Weeks does not owe Flagler County 1 penny. Flagler County was never a party to any legal action. Okay? She is appealing up to the appellate court. The award is for Al Hadid personally and Charlie Erickson personally. The county never had a part. And Joe Mullins, you are misquoting me. Kim Weeks doesn't owe the county any money. She doesn't owe reimbursement of legal fees that were never spent. And you ought to be sent back to Georgia. Secondly, as far as the Dixie Hotel, it was purchased for $650,000. I would have liked to buy it. And my husband, my neighbor's home sold for $690,000. Now I find out they're going to get water. The former owners of the hotel let it turn into a dump because they couldn't get water. That was one of the reasons they let it turn into a dump. Now, Mr. Hadid farmed this out to a former county attorney, Mr. McKinnon, who did the legal work. I could file a list penance sitting on my bathroom toilet seat without hiring an attorney. It's so easy. But Mr. Hadid farmed this out to Mr. McKinnon, who we so far have paid $9,800. The total fines to Flagler County are only $15,000. So $15,000 minus $9,800, that doesn't count staff time, etc. So maybe we got $3,000. 11 years, this was a dump. Thirdly, I do not want to see any phone calls or any emails from Joe Mullins taking credit for the old Dixie Hotel. Number one, it is also in Dave Sullivan's district, and you need to stop covering up for your pal Joe Mullins. It is not in your district. I don't want to get your phony radio commercials that you did anything or your pal Al Hadid. Your pal Al Hadid farmed the lawsuit out to a third-party attorney out of his $800,000 budget. All right, you didn't do a damn thing. I started the ball rolling in 2012. In 2018, when the county did nothing, and I have emails, nothing, I called the health department. They walked away with $45,000 because they had their own attorney go to court. And now, all of a sudden, who are the real buyers? Who is this 220 LLC? Who are the people involved? An LLC is not a property owner, and I'm going to go to the FBI with this one because this one stinks. All of a sudden, the hotel is sold. It's not on MLS. It sells for less than homes in Plantation Bay. None of us knew about it, and all of a sudden, it's getting $1.5 million to get water. The FBI needs to come in here, and Mullins, you need to go, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens.
Okay, let's all take a breath. We'll return to planet Earth now and continue the community outreach portion. Anybody else wish to participate in community outreach? All right, seeing no one approach the podium, we'll close that. We'll move on to commission reports, comments, actions. Commissioner Dance.
With Administrator Cameron setting a last day, what's on next for us to consider our actions as far as an interim or hiring the county administrator? Are we placing an agenda item? I mean, it's one of our two sole responsibilities. So when are we going to pick this up?
Is that a question for me or any
As
of the
chair,
commissioners? If you're asking my opinion, I believe we should have whatever the legal item is, an agenda item that basically appoints Mr. Salinas as the acting county manager or county administrator or interim, whatever the terminology is. And leave it at that for the time being. I'm personally not interested in any kind of additional search at this point, and would be willing for the foreseeable future to continue things along with Mr. Salinas and Ms. Petito.
Well, since we've got one meeting left, obviously, we have to make a decision at the next commission meeting in order to officially do that duty. So I'm just making sure there's an agenda item scheduled for the next meeting so we have that discussion.
And I think that's a valid point, and we need to make sure we do that. And I intended to have that on the agenda, but I appreciate
And we really don't have a
We will make
choice.
sure it is on the agenda.
Right, we have to,
You're
I
right.
mean,
Yes, sir.
one option is appointing the deputy as the interim.
Yes, sir. Okay. That was my plan, to have it on the agenda, and whatever, we'll have an open
Okay.
discussion about it. So, yes, sir. Agree. Anything else, sir? Andy?
No, sir,
Oh,
I'm good, thank
okay.
you,
All right.
sorry.
No, that's all right. Just want to make sure we got you.
Just a chance to once again thank the staff and my fellow commissioners for providing water finally to the residents out on Old A1A and Willow Woods. I mean, that's a remarkable feat, and it took all of us to get it done. And I just thank everybody involved, because it's a shame that people in our county don't have water. So we're fixing it. So thank you, everybody, for doing that.
That's it? All right. Thank you, Mr. Mullins.
Oh, all right, let me gather my thoughts. I'm so struggling with someone talking about doing law stuff from a toilet seat. The visual of that just killed me. One thing I want to just bring up, I really enjoyed the Memorial Day festival festivities that we did in the county. I thought they were phenomenal. And it's an honor to serve with so many great people, you Navy guys up here that I sit with. I love hearing the stories. I love seeing the passion and the love for this country. Charlie, when you were here, the Army, hearing about the Army stories, which my father was served in the Army, just hearing all the great stories and great things, and seeing the love for our country, and realizing the sacrifices that so many of you guys have made, and the ultimate sacrifices we recognize that day, meant a lot to me, and it just makes me more charged up to fight for this country and this nation on a political platform. Having Michael, Colonel Waltz come in and, let me say Congressman Waltz come in and speak at both events and talk so passionately, I was just very honored to be there with him and see it. And a little discouraged seeing Flagler Live take a shot at a military guy, especially on a day like that, by publicizing a negative piece on him. Just sickens me. But overall, that was a great day in this county, and we owe it to the veterans to stay strong and fight for them. Also, after what I've heard today and seen, and I know you guys, I'd like to throw a motion out there, or maybe something we do make a consensus on. I know that July 4th is falling again on a weekend, and last year we looked out for staff and did an appreciation day. And I'd like to get a consensus, or may even make a motion, if it needs to be a motion, to, I know how passionate it is for everybody up here, for our staff, and appreciating the hard work. And this could be anyone saying this, but because we all feel the same way, but doing an employee appreciation day and giving them Friday before 4th of July off to thank them for what they've done. And just even after the presentations today, and like Commissioner Hanson said, how hard they fought to resolve the issues that we're up here rallying for. They've been champions to us, but give them that day off. So I'd like to see if we can get a consensus to do that for them on July 3rd.
That'd be July 2nd.
July 2nd, I apologize. Friday before.
That's a Friday?
The observed holiday is Monday.
We've done that in the past.
Yes, sir. We have done that several times since I've been here. And, you know, the results of the board showing that level of appreciation are manifest when you look at what the staff is accomplishing. It would be the envy of any county, I would think.
I'm fine with all that except for you, because that's one of the last days we can actually have you do something for us.
I'm sure you'll call me, Commissioner.
I agree with that.
Anyone want to make a motion on that?
I'd like to
Just,
make-
we just need to give
Can we-
consensus on that, is that all right?
Can we bring it to the next meeting? I mean, does it have to be done right now?
Yeah,
It does?
yeah. I think for planning purposes, it needs to be.
Yeah, because there
Yeah.
might be, there's probably scheduling issues and stuff.
Does it need a motion, or can we just can do it by consensus?
The administrator is satisfied with the consensus. It would be within his ability to implement your consensus on this kind of a matter.
I think we should do it.
All
I'm
right,
for
so
it.
So be it.
Yes.
Yes.
yes, with the exception of the administrator.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know that he heard the contingency. The
Contingency
consensus,
was
the
yes with the
consensus is
exception.
contingent on you being available to work on July 2.
Absolutely. I'll be cleaning out my office.
Take your 3 letters with you.
Anything else, Mr. Mullins?
No, I'm all that. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, 2 items. I just don't want to let I know we've delayed it, the mosquito control situation in the county go by without, I'm a little concerned that I want to make sure that we're in mosquito season basically now. And if there's any decisions affecting how we do things this summer, I'd like to get them out there as soon as possible. So that it's just, I know we're going to bring it up again, but that's one thing. And then the other thing, and this is just personal to me as a resident of Palm Coast. I want to make this point because most of us are residents of Palm Coast. And so I'm just asking that none of our current commissioners resign shortly. It's going to cost the city of Palm Coast $185,000 to run an election that should not have been necessary. And I know that's a little touchy, but my point is, these things don't come free. And by the time that's all done, that's going to cost the city of Palm Coast quite a bit of money to make all that happen. So it's just the law of unintended consequences, I guess, kicks in at these times. And it still is taxpayer money that we're spending. That's it.
In answer to your question about the mosquito control, I have a formal proposal from Anastasia, but I've had some really good discussions with East Flagler. And for the first time, they are working on a plan, which is why this was postponed, to have a phased-in coverage of the entire county, and then the county would be out of having to approve funding and so forth for the unincorporated areas that are not in the East Flagler section. I believe that they're going to come up with a proposal that will be appealing to you. In the meantime, I am going to work out some interim measures to make sure that when the rainy season starts here, that we will be able to cover the gap until a permanent solution is achieved.
Good. That's it.
Thanks. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.